Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we have with us Professor Aijaz Ahmad to discuss the brutal bombing and continued invasion of Gaza, which Israel is continuing even after it supposedly has called for a ceasefire. As we talk, the ceasefire has been broken by Israel, the 72-hour ceasefire that they had announced. Gaza is brutal at the moment. Killings that are going on are unbelievable. But why is the world, or what you call the United Nations, the Security Council, why are they not taking any action? What's happening to our institutions of global governance?
Well, the two countries that have always been sheltered by the UN Security Council have been the United States and Israel. There is a kind of an impunity. No other country in the Middle East can defy the United Nations. In the name of the United Nations, they go and bomb countries and so on and so forth because there is a UN resolution. These are the two countries that have a complete impunity. They have complete impunity because the entire Western world, the entire state system of the Western world is behind Israel. I believe that Europeans even have accepted that Israel's apartheid project, in the real proper sense, a project into the future, is the only way Israel, but they have accepted that project, I believe. They all know what Gaza is about. What is very astounding to me and very disheartening to me is that Russia, China, emerging powers, BRICS, so to speak, have not taken a strong position. The only states that have taken strong positions are, in a sense, the ones that don't matter to the international system, such as Bolivia and so on. I must say that it was Bolivian initiative, actually, which forced the hands of the United Nations Human Rights Commission in VPLI and so on, because they went with Evo Morales, sent a request to them to establish a commission of inquiry into the war crimes of Israel in Gaza. They then acted on it to a certain extent. Now, what is happening, we'll see what happens now. UNRWA, the UN agency most involved in Palestine, has actually gone and spoken from the floor of the Security Council, telling them what is going on and how this UN agency itself gave them precise information, not once, not twice, but 17 times, about the premise where they were sheltering some refugees, and the Israelis came and bombed their shelter.
Yes, we're not going to really discuss about the bombings and what the slaughter that is going on, because as you know, NewsClick has been covering it in details. It's there all over, and this is the first time we must accept that the complete control over the visual narrative that Israel was able to build earlier this time is broken.
Yeah. For
the alternate media, for Twitter, Facebook and all these things, but primarily that monopoly of visual coverage, which was always controlled by Israel and the United States, that is broken. Even when the NBC called back its correspondent from Gaza because of the furor it created, they had to send him back. So that details has come out quite clearly. But let's look at it, let's look at the other questions. What is the long-term project that Israel has with respect to Gaza? What is it that it is really trying to do?
I think Ilan Pape's term, incremental genocide, applies. My sense is that one of the basic projects Israel has at the moment, it's a transitional project, is to greatly minimize even the numbers of people occupying what is now called Palestine, which is to say the Gaza and the West Bank. Right now you have a situation in which about half of the population in Gaza may be completely homeless, having to live either shelters or under open skies. They want to create a situation in which life becomes impossible and people in large numbers begin to leave. They will not allow Gazans to travel one by one, a family here, a family there. That blockade continues. but to create a situation in which there is a mass exodus. That is to say, I actually believe that what is now happening may be the beginning of a new Nakba, really a new big level of strangulation of the population in Gaza in such a way that, let's say, over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, large numbers of people either die or leave.
So what the deputy leader or deputy speaker of the Knesset has said, let them go to Sinai or we bomb them because they're there.
Absolutely.
This is the project that you think
absolutely. Members of the Knesset are saying, let the sons die and their mothers follow them into hell. So, I mean, genocide is being propagated from inside that parliament.
You know, I don't think that we have seen such expressions where senior leaders of ruling parties, I mean, Avigdor Lieberman is the other one, yeah, and various other two members of Knesset who have only openly talked about genocide, the deputy speaker of Knesset who has talked about either they go to Sinai or they should all be killed. This kind of legitimation of mass ethnic violence by people in power, in government or in government institution is completely alien to what we have seen and no world condemnation.
Absolutely. And you see, this is something. One side is no world condemnation that you are emphasizing, very rightly, it must be emphasized. But they also represent that country. In a poll that was taken just a few days ago, 86.5% of the Israeli population is saying there must be no ceasefire until Hamas is eliminated. Now, how do you eliminate Hamas from Gaza? How do you know who is Hamas and who is not in Gaza? So you basically are again saying that we'll just go on killing and killing and killing till we decide that Hamas is gone. But Hamas will not be gone. So, you know, there is now a national consensus for genocide.
That is, I think, I mean, in terms of societal terms, a country's 86%, more than 86% people asking for genocide. Now that is extraordinary. And it is an extraordinary psyche of a country. And 86%, of course, of the Jewish population.
Which means
20% are Arabs who are
86.5% of the population means virtually 100%
of the Jewish population.
Of the Jewish
I think they never polled the Arab population.
Yeah,
my suspicion is that the polling was probably only Jewish.
But you know, connected with that, this has been now going on for well over 2 weeks. Yes.
Yeah. So in fact, 25th day today.
25th day, 25. You know, almost a month. Demonstration of 5,000 in Tel Aviv, 4,000 or so of whom are Palestinians. So less than 1,000 Jews. In Haifa, a total demonstration, 700 to 800, 500 or so of them Palestinians. 25 days, less than 2,000 Israelis out demonstrating. For its Jewish population, Israel is a very democratic country. Any Jew could have come out and protested. Less than 2,000. So far, 25 days.
And
100,000 in London.
And Gideon Levy is the most hated person in Israel among the Jewish community by the Jews, right, for advocating peace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, this is the pathology of a country. And we can write tracts about why it has happened, how it has happened, sure, irrelevant. Yeah, right. The net result is that Israel continues its attack on Gaza. Now, they have two options. At some point, withdraw or completely reoccupy Gaza. Both militarily doesn't seem to me, have long-term prospects unless they believe what you are saying, that such a process will force a mass exodus. Do you think that this really the only objective is mass exodus and no other military objective?
Well, look, genocide is the solution to the fact that they cannot occupy. All right. They cannot occupy. So they must just kill and kill and kill. And really create a situation of that kind. My sense is that this is also related to what they wish to do now. I think this is a beginning this may be a beginning of a much bigger process in which before they started bombing, they actually in June carried out mass arrests of Hamas people in the West Bank. And there was a lot of disturbance in the West Bank at that time. There also appears to be plans, even you have come to a point where for Israel, even Mahmoud Abbas is not good enough. And there are Israeli and Gulf plans to bring people like Dahlan back to take over now the Palestine Authority. My sense is that one of the motivations behind this, parallel with what we are talking about, is to speed up the process of annexation of more and more of the West Bank over the next year or 2 or 3. So it is greater territorial annexation on one side, which they know means an enormous amount of violence on the West Bank as well.
So making people immune to violence on a mass scale, that could be the agenda.
Yeah. I think they have come to a point, they may have come to a point, it's my speculation, they may have come to a point where they believe that the Arab world, the situation in the Arab world could not be more favorable to them than it is now. So now is the time to move on with the Zionist project of taking over more and more of Palestine and depopulating it of the Palestinian population, the two-pronged thing. Now, how well they will succeed, how many people will leave, we don't know.
You know, just two things. You must have also been to Palestine. I've been there. I think people there have decided they will die, but they will not leave. That seems to be what you get in Gaza. That's what you get in West Bank. When I talked to a woman leader of one of the villages, and she said she had lost her husband and her elder son was in jail. She said, we're never going to leave this land. It's ours. We'll see. We'll outlast them on this land. And that seemed to be the determination that comes true in various ways. So to me, it seems to be a project of depopulating which cannot succeed. But of course, we have to see how it goes.
But look, I think Palestinian people, not their leaders, but Palestinian people are the great heroes of our time. Nothing like that has been known in God knows how long. Even the Vietnamese were not put into this kind of situation by the Americans. That said, what you have in Gaza now is that 90% of the water resources are now so deeply contaminated that you cannot drink it without getting ill. You're getting diseases so complicated that it's very difficult to diagnose even the combination of diseases that come out of drinking that water. The United Nations says that in another 5-7 years, it will be uninhabitable. When Palestinians have said historically, we will not leave, you can bomb us, you can kill us, we will not leave, they had, I think, no idea that Israelis will create a situation where they will not have a glass of water. And dying would mean that.
We have to see whether
how far they succeed.
How far they succeed and how much of the world opinion, I'm going to come to that in a moment, how much the world opinion allows them to do so. And it brings up the question that yes, the Western governments, the BRICS, the G77, all of them have been complicit in various degrees. The government of India, which is continuously trying to equate Hamas with Israel.
Right.
This is going on. But at the same time, one thing is, I think, important to note, and you must have registered it as well, that because of the kind of visual narrative that we are now clearly getting, which cannot be suppressed, that the people's anger in different forms, you said 100,000 demonstration in London, demonstrations in New York, the media's campaign seems to have picked up quite a bit. Do you think that is a possible resistance to Israel on a worldwide scale?
Well, I mean, that is where I believe it's in the global arena that Palestinian war will be won. It is a combination of the heroism of that whole population and the fight back from inside it in terms of organizing resistance outside the parameters even of what their leaders and various authorities say. That and combination of the world. No question. And in that, I think the Palestinian cause has made greater strides within the last 5 years than it did in 30, 40 years prior to that. And that is unstoppable, in my view. That is going to escalate, that is unstoppable. Now there are large sections of the Jewish population in the Western world, especially in the country that matters the most, in the United States, very influential people joining up in this, and after what has happened in the last 3 weeks, this will escalate. That is where the great hope lies. The question, which cannot be answered, but the question for us is, can this be built faster than the rate at which the Israelis wish to? My view is that one of the reasons why Israelis have speeded up this process of extreme genocide, annexation, we don't care what international institutions do and so on. I think part of the reason of that escalation is precisely the thing that you were pointing at, the resistance at a mass level on a global scale, so that this particular contradiction where you have the entire world state system either quiescent or complicit, whereas the populations, articulate populations, are turning. Where that will go? When will that balance tilt? Can the Israelis do it faster? That is, I think, the real question, and that can only be answered in practice.
As they say, history will answer, and I am convinced that in the 21st century, an apartheid genocidal state has no future.
Absolutely.
But this is where, we have to see whether the Palestinians will survive that, or whether
how much suffering they will inflict. Palestinians will survive. 1.8 in Gaza million, 2.3 in the West Bank, 7 million outside the historic land of Palestine, just as attached to their homeland as everyone else.
The 1.3 billion inside what is called Israel.
That's right. That's right. So in all, 12 to 14 million Palestinians, how many of them are you going to kill? So Palestinians will survive.
So an ethnic genocidal state will not.
Right.
Will not outlive the 21st century.
That's right.
It may outlive you or me,
Right.
but certainly
That's
will not outlive the 21st
That's
century.
right. That's right.
Thank you, Aijaz, for this discussion. We will, from NewsClick, continue to observe what's happening in Gaza. We make no bones about it that we are with the people in Palestine, on their side. We are not objective on this question. We are quite willing to be partisan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.